Just say it, man. Don't make me ask 20 questions.
What is the point?
Get to the point.
Just say it already!
Welcome to the Podcram. I'm really enjoying Jordan Peterson's reconceptualization of personality disorders as instances of underdevelopment, as opposed to the more typical idea that all these people are malformed. Check it out.
The best way to think about the narcissists and the hedonists and the histrionic types and the borderlines and the antisocial personalities is that they never matured cortically. So like children come into the world in a way as a bundle of competing subcortical motivations, right? And they're very powerful motivations. Anger, for example, you watch a 2-year-old have a temper tantrum, it's quite the show. And they want short-term immediate gratification. Now what happens as your cortex matures, you transcend those lower order instinctual motivations, that would be the Freudian id, and you start to regulate your behavior in relationship to your own future. So you stop doing stupid, pleasurable things in the moment that will compromise you, and you start to be able to incorporate the views of other people. That's how kids at 3 start to develop the ability to have friends. And the more sophisticated you get, the more other people and their perspectives are part of your perceptions, and the more the future is taken into account in your actions. And the cortex is actually there so that that can happen. And it has to happen in a social context because you have to pick up the society of your peers, obviously. And so conditions like psychopathy, or even power seeking for that matter, are conditions of radical immaturity. That's how you explain their emergence. And one of the things that's interesting about that is it provides a very powerful argument against moral relativism. It's like there's a real difference between maturation and immaturity. Maturation is productive and sustainable, and immaturity is divisive and destructive. And there's no ifs, ands, or buts about that.
Right.
And so, see, it's a different view of mental health, because the classic therapist-produced view of mental health is that mental health is sort of inside you. You know, it's in your psyche, it's in your mind. But it's not. Like, your mental health is the harmony of your existence in relationship to the future and other people, right? And that sense of well-being that can infuse you if you get the balance right isn't a reflection of the proper function of your mind or your brain. It's a phenomena that emerges when everything is in its proper place and operating harmoniously. That's what you experience in music. Like, music represents that. It's a much more expanded view of what constitutes mental health. Anyways, education should serve that, right? And so if you take the staff of Moses that's planted in a single place, the community grows around that. That's the same as the magic wand of Gandalf, that idea of a magic wand. It's the traditional ethos associated with transformation and sacrifice around which communities aggregate themselves. And a proper humanities and religious education inculcates that center structure so that knowledge can be organized around it. What seems to be the case with a corpus of stories like the biblical library is that if you know the stories, it structures your psyche so that you have a place to put information. And so that enables you to understand the current world and everything that's happening, but to place everything in the right context. And so the transmission of an unbroken cultural story-based edifice is the manner in which you solve the alignment problem, unite your society, integrate your psyche, pursue what's meaningful, and protect yourself from chaos and anxiety. And then solid education has been the traditional way of ensuring that that occurs. Can the universities do that? I don't think so.
I don't know if they have that philosophy.
The premise of the postmodernists is that there's no uniting meta-narrative. If you had to define postmodernism in one phrase, that would be it.
Thanks for listening to this installment of The Podcram. I hope it contains something useful for you. If you enjoy these selections and are curious about the curator's own thoughts, you can check out my other podcast, Psychic Lube, where I share concise concepts meant to grease the intellectual gears and help get your creative juices flowing. Each episode is an ongoing collaborative project that welcomes listeners to expand or rebut its points by email or comment, the most interesting of which get incorporated through periodic re-recordings. As always, if you're intrigued by today's content, I encourage you to go listen to the full podcast in its original form directly from its creators so that their sponsors keep paying them to make stuff for us and nobody feels compelled to sue me for copyright infringement. Now, get off your phone and go do smart stuff. Have a productive day.